right? So what I decided to do, though, with that was to double down and go through this exact process that I was going through with myself, not just to make yourself more marketable, right? That's an important element, but to actually give yourself a business that has a deeper motivation that you are excited about, in turn, actually helping the end user.
Adrian, it's been about a year since I got to sit down and talk with you in the studio here.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. You've been working on a lot of stuff. I've seen you just reading books and hammering away on your keyboard there. So can you tell me a little bit about the journey that you've been working on?
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and it has been a while since we did our last AA batteries, eh? But yeah, as you said, I've been at the grindstone, right? So yeah, it's a good time too, because I have put my ideas together. So it is time to kind of, get this out into the world now. So really, when I'm looking back through things, it's a story of a reoccurring theme, which is anything good in my life seems to come through rock bottom first, right? So that's a reoccurring theme we see through this journey, as well as there's a lesson that, the quote we used to use a lot, putting a round peg through a square hole.
We certainly tried that method for a while.
We were so good at doing that, right? Like, well, we learned that you could put a round peg through a round hole.
It's much easier.
It's a better way. There's potentially better ways. So, right. So I guess I'm going to back this up a bit to before I even had started my business, Wavefront Media, right, and talk about a bit about the mindset and the series of events that led to it.
Okay.
Right? So I guess I would say mid-20s, right? I'd done everything society had asked, right? I got the job as an engineer. I had the house, had the dog, didn't buy a dog, but I was living that dream on paper, right? But I was miserable, right? So once again, here's the first example of this coming into play. Like, I was miserable, right? But that made me so ready for something new, right? Like, I was depressed. I was going down a bad path, right? And without that struggle, I wouldn't have discovered the power of the mind, the power of personal development, law of attraction, right? So if not for being miserable at my job, personal development wouldn't have become the passion, right? So it's one of those things where I'm grateful for those rock bottom moments, because it started this whole new world for me of actually realizing that we have a little bit of control of our destiny. Right. And it's actually our responsibility, right? And it's all on us. But because of that, we can actually create a lot of things that previously I just thought was out of our control completely, right? So as soon as I realized you could essentially work your mind the same way you could grind away at techniques, like when I used to wrestle, right? As soon as I knew we could do that with the mind, that's when the fire ignited in my soul, and everything changed from there.
What did you start doing when you learned that?
Well, so instantly you're led to new connections, right? So you start controlling who you surround yourself with, right? So connections, information, and that essentially just opened up a whole new world for me. And one of the big key takeaways was the ability to deal with and overcome challenges, right? Hurdles and struggles, right? So the idea that anything that happens in your life, whether it's negative or positive, that's on you, right? So whether the output of negative or positive, that's a you problem, right? So if it comes out negative, it's not the world, that's you, right? So understanding this, for me, that became the biggest change in my life. And the motivator behind actually making the decision to leave my 9-to-5 job.
Right. That was the major shifting in mindset that made you want to leave engineering and pursue starting your own business.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the next step? Where did you go from there?
Well, so I guess there is probably a novel worth of another story in between that decision and actually starting up my job, Wavefront Media, right? Starting up the business. Well, we'll leave that for another time. But so it's another story of I saw a lot of shit, but I overcame a lot of that shit, right? But because of that, that gave me so much confidence in my ability to run my new business, Wavefront Media. I wasn't necessarily very experienced at it, right? But essentially everyone that starts a business isn't that experienced at it. Mm-hmm. But I felt I had a bit of an edge because of all the hardship I dealt with previously to get there. I felt that there was nothing possible on the planet in the universe that could have stopped me, right? So that was the mindset. The one thing I didn't realize is that there were in fact external factors that were going to leave me feeling cornered with the same helpless feelings I was feeling at my 9-to-5 job. So my desire, the initial desire and goal of Wavefront Media was to live a lifestyle on my own terms. And I like to use the term intentional lifestyle. That's where a life where I get to call the shots. I take full responsibility. And I used to say this a ton, and I still do, but do what I want, when I want, how I want, right? Not defined or not limited by money. I don't need to save up for a vacation. I don't even want to use the term vacation, right? Right. So essentially living a life on my own terms, right? And I wanted to use Wavefront Media as the vessel. Essentially was a strategic maneuver to get valuable skill sets in a valuable market, which was digital marketing, right? Right. So the plan was to use Wavefront Media as the engine to actually blossom other passion projects, ones I have more passion in, right? So the long-term goal, though, was, and you're a good example of this, right? So it's like when you saw me trailblazing my own path, right? When I'd share my stories and you like excited about them, and then you'd say, oh man, I tried this out and it actually worked. I can't believe it. I started realizing, like just through working with you, for example, that my main, like nothing makes me feel better than actually mentorship, right? So I wanted to use this vessel not only as, passion projects, but use it as an example of, hey, look what I did. If you like this, you can follow me, right? As a mentorship source, right? But now the initial task at hand, though, with Wavefront Media was to create a scalable business model.
Right.
Right. So that was the task at hand. Now, what I learned was you can have any battle-hardened mindset you like, but there are, in fact, things that are outside of your control. And there were some external challenges that I had that were about to potentially derail the whole train, right? So just to explain a bit deeper about some of that, right? So the first 2 years with Wavefront Media, right, with the initial goal of creating a scalable business model, we decided we were going to target restaurants, and our goal was to bring more restaurant guests, right? So just by focusing on that one task, that one problem, right, we kept trying things time and time again with the same clients. And then guess what? By focusing on that, we're eventually to start getting these results we're looking for, right? So we had a proof of concept. We had something that we could repeat, right? And we were now investing in making sales videos and everything for our own sales funnels and to start marketing this for ourselves, right?
Right.
As soon as we started actually doing sales, right, I'd done about my first 3 contacts, And it was actually starting to get a lot of interest from everyone I talked to. They're like, oh, this is really interesting. But I was getting the same response, right? And this was early March. What was that, 2021? What was the first year of COVID?
What is it? It's 2023 right now? It had to be 2020.
2020?
Yeah.
They were all saying the same thing. They're like, this sounds really good, but what's going on with COVID? And I was like, I don't know.
How are you going to get people into a restaurant?
That sucks, right? And then, fair enough, 2 weeks later, restaurants were getting shut down by the government, right? So it's like all of this time and effort we put in up to that point, and we were doing it, all got shut down. External event, shut it all down. How do you fucking even plan for that, right? How do you prepare for that, right? So now we're in this weird position where, we were in debt because of this investment, but we were willing to do this because we were very confident that this was getting results, right? Yeah. So we're planning the sales to make up for that. And we thought we could have made it up very quickly, but now that was all shut down. And now all we're left with is debt and a service that doesn't work
in the current environment.
Right. All we had was experience now with that cycle, with how to make a product.
Right.
So now we're left with the decision, right? So it's like, do we pack up shop, right? Do we just shut down, or do we take out more loans, and do we invest further to now try to make repeatable service that gets results in this new environment? Right. Now with this battle-hardened mindset, that's the latter choice is what there's no option.
There's no option. It's either go back to 9-to-5 job or double down.
Yeah, I don't even know what job I'm going to go back to at this point, right? But but it's like, yeah, that was like definitely the last thing I'd ever wanted to do, right? But so it's like, yeah, so we invested, and fair enough, we were figuring out something else, and we were actually getting results with it for our current clients, right? So it's like, okay, cool, we're on track to doing this again. I had built the belief already with the previous project that it was just with a few different techniques. We're just going to repeat it, right? And we're doing it to an extent. And then there was one really landing our first new restaurant client with this program, right? And it was to get online takeout orders and build up their database that way. On launch day, there legit were just 2 pieces of information that weren't being communicated, right? From our system to their point of sale system. And it was one of those technical things that I, didn't foresee as an issue at all.
Right.
Unforeseen technical problem. Turns out that it's actually it's a whole new different situation with IT, connecting software to hardware, which was at that time a whole different art than what I was playing in. Whole different sandbox.
Right. You were familiar with digital marketing and everything that goes into
that.
Right.
So with the goal of being scalable and repeatable, this now shuts that down pretty fast, because now we have to do a custom development job for each new restaurant with another point of sale system. Okay, so that's now a year after investing way more, after already being in debt.
So external issue number 1, COVID, did not plan for. External issue number 2, technical issues that you did not foresee. Things that even though you had the mindset, you couldn't.
Yeah, and it was a whole new market, right? And it was new for most businesses, right? So trying to make those connections happen, right? So anyways, now I'm left with the first time in my business where I actually had to, I ended up calling the shot to abort the whole thing, because I wasn't sure how much deeper this was going to go, right? So I had to make the call. We're shutting this project down. Don't know what's next. Shutting it down, right? But I'm not going more in debt for sure, right? So
yeah.
These external events now led to, I guess, the first hiccup I felt with my own internal struggle, right? So, dealing with long-term sustained pressure, when you're just in a business as an opportunity, I was learning that even me with this perfect battle-hardened mindset, I started to see my passion declining day by day. And that was one of those things I didn't expect would ever happen. I thought no matter what, I'd find motivation in something, whether it's the skill sets, getting the results for the clients, like the monetary results.
Right. Cause you're just so like well-trained in grinding the body from wrestling that you're like, oh, I can grind the mind. There'll be some way that I can.
But it's you're using things for motivation, right? So it's like, even with wrestling, it's like you grind, but then you see the technique improve and you get the takedown, right? You see with, even with this, working with restaurants, grinding, improving your skill sets, getting results.
Yeah.
I thought that motivation was enough to keep me going. Now, what I didn't realize was that maybe it wasn't enough, right? So I found myself, and you actually were there that day, where I felt cornered. I didn't know what to do. I actually felt a moment where I felt my beliefs shattering. I felt everything was going out the window, and it's because I felt myself back in the exact same position I was when I was of helplessness when I was working the 9 to 5. Right. The corporate job, right? So I'd finally hit that point in business where I was like,
but this must have been kind of a good point, because it felt like another rock bottom for you then, isn't it?
Well, maybe that day when you witnessed me, I was in tears, not having a good time. I felt lost, right?
Yeah.
We learned that the reoccurring theme is, though, for me, and probably for a lot of people, you need to hit that rock bottom, right? So if I didn't hit that rock bottom, it wouldn't have caused the next aha moment, right? So this was a very important thing, because sometimes we talk about putting a round peg through a square hole. I was kind of doing that the whole time.
Just trying to force your mentality to push through and make
something happen in an industry I'm not super passionate about, right? Like, I felt like that was happening the whole time. And I just thought through Jedi mind tricks, I could work my way through it. Right. But fortunately, let's say there wasn't COVID and I was still managing to just get by and keep grinding. Maybe I wouldn't have ever caught the flow state if COVID didn't happen and make me reach breaking point. Right.
So blessing in disguise for you.
I think so. And I think for a lot of people, rock bottom might be that moment as well, right?
You just can't see it when you're in it.
Sometimes there's not enough pain, right? If you're not feeling enough pain, it's like, well, I'm not in enough pain to make any change, right? So what I realized, and this first time starting the business, and it's unfortunate, I had to lay off my main marketing guy who had worked with me from the start, but I had to make a deep change now, because I knew for sure I might as well just go back to a job, because that's better off. I would have been better off just working a job and saving money than doing this thing that's not actually my passion anyways. Right. So I decided to just pump the brakes and then just take no more sales and just work as little as possible. Just manage current clients. I had that under wrap, right? But nothing else on the mind other than that, right? So that became a very, very beneficial turning point for me, because I started focusing in back on the root things that got me to this place in the first place, which was things like feel good now, live in the present moment, just be happy. Like, that's it. It's all you have to do is just feel good now. I had built in a habit of feeling stressed every day.
Right.
It started to drive me crazy. Right. But it was all these pressure projects. Right. But you could tell with just pushing the round peg through the square hole too long, you almost force yourself into a stressed state. Right. So I wanted to just release all of that. Right. And the only goal at the time was, we're for sure not doing that path. Right. We don't want to do the 9 to 5. Not going to grind on a business like this ever again. Right. I'm going to sit down, and there's no time limit on this. If this takes me 2 years, I'll take 2 years until I find something that I can actually sustainably pursue with deep motivation and passion. Right. You don't know if you're ever going to find it. I didn't care. I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to feel good right now. It was summertime. It was your wedding. A lot of good things that summer, right? So now, big thing that happened in that time is I became a sponge of information, right? So I picked up a really good habit of just reading a ton, right? I used to do that a lot back in the day.
Right.
This time now, with all this new time, I'm just reading everything. Just reading so many books, researching any random subject. And then this was the beginning of the chain of events, right? One of the things of just, feeling good now is I practice a lot more jiu-jitsu, is just spend a lot more time showing up there as much as possible. A member there, he suggested me to watch Undercover Billionaire with Grant Cardone.
Right. I remember you watching that series, and we had a couple of conversations about it.
Yeah, so Grant Cardone actually was he was actually my first digital mentor going into the entrepreneurial scene, right? He's the king of the cold call. He was the king of energy, right? He was the guy that pumped me up to make 100 cold calls in a day, right? He was my original mentor, right? So anyways, when I watched this Undercover Billionaire show, for those of you who don't know, you get a billionaire, you throw him in a small town with none of his contacts. He can't use any advantage he has, right? But he has 90 days to make $1 million. And can they do it? Or are they just rich just because they've been gifted that spot, right? So Grant Cardone ended up, after 90 days, getting a digital marketing agency, doing the exact same thing I was struggling at doing for 4 years. 90 days, he got his business appraised at $5.5 million. Right? I watched this and I was like, what the fuck did he just do? I want to know what he just did there. You only see bits and pieces of it, right? So I wanted to see, what did you do? That is fascinating. I love that. What the heck did you do? Funny enough, about a month later, got targeted in one of his ads, right? And he was actually monetizing the success of the show. And I was like, oh, you little crafty son of But what he said in the ad is like, let me show you how I made a successful digital agency in 90 days. And I was like,
right. What
I wanted to know, right? It's also, I always like to check out other marketers' funnels and see what the top dogs are doing, right? So that's another reason I went. But so anyways, I went in, watched the course, and this was the beginning of leading me to my next mentor, right? So the mentor I'm using today, which is this right here. Right. We'll get into that. But funny enough, in his course, it was like 10X business plan by Grant Cardone, free business plan. He's going to pitch you something after, right? How did he get successful with his business? The king of cold calling, direct sales, is like, no, sales funnels. They're the way. Sales funnels. Don't even do cold calls no more. I'm like, okay, so throughout the years of marketing, of course, I'm going to be involved with some funnels, right? And I've done some very heavy marketing courses talking about funnels, right? But now I have my OG sensei telling me, who is the cold call master, saying funnels, right? So I'm like, okay, right there, boom, decision. I was like, I'm going to master funnels. I don't care what. Kind of just one of those mindless, I'm going. I've been beaten over the head too much with this, right? I didn't buy Grant's course. I went to the king of funnels.
Right, so you did a little bit of research after that?
I've being involved in marketing, you kind of know, you get targeted in all the ads. I know the king of funnels is Russell Brunson, right? So this is hilarious, but instantly I bought a ClickFunnels membership. I was going to, throughout the years, very close to clicking that button. I was like, do I want to pay that membership every month? I got my free website. I can just use that, right? So anyways, I went straight, bought a membership, then realized I'm in the ecosystem now of the sales funnel master, the king of sales funnels. I'm in his funnel now, right?
And let me guess, it worked.
I'm now in his funnel and I'm getting pushed with new products, new things. This felt different though. I felt a different spirit in this. Something felt different.
Different from just being excited about digital marketing?
Being part of his funnel felt different than just being part of, like, I've been part of many different funnels, right? This was being part of his ecosystem. I legit was looking forward to give him more money. Like, I was looking forward to buy more of his products, right? And you started seeing the process start, which was at the end of the summer, right after I took the course. I became like a student of his stuff. I started buying everything, all of his stuff, all of the memberships that he's partnershiped with, Magnetic Marketing, right? Really good marketing fundamentals. Bought all his books, right? That led me to Expert Secrets, right? His book, Expert Secrets. And you saw how excited I was when I got that book,
I think
right?
You finished it in like 3 days.
I crushed it out. I'd say, 3 days to a week in that time. I live with AJ here, right? So like I was talking to him every day about it, but I would say up to that point, Expert Secrets was the most impactful book I had read to date, right? Maybe it's because it's resonating with where I was at.
Right.
But this had, I was starting to see exactly what he was doing. Right. And he was being very transparent with what he was doing. He was telling us exactly what he was doing. Right. But now I started to see why this guy's taken over marketing and why everyone's vouching for him, why everyone is vouching. Grant Cardone, why my other heroes, everyone's looking at Russell Brunson, partnering with him. And what I started to see was, and he was very transparent and telling people what he's doing, and he's not selling a product or a service. Right. These are things that started blowing my mind. Because that's what I went into business thinking what it is, selling a product or service.
Right. Which is, I think, a lot of people, and maybe even some people that are watching this, are thinking, I'm started a business, I sell a product or a service.
You just don't know better, right? And it's the thing that got me in the problem in the first place. But now I'm looking at what Russell Brunson's doing, and he's telling us what he's doing. And I'm looking at all his funnels and I'm starting to see, this is why I want to keep buying his stuff. He's not selling me a product or service. I'm not buying ClickFunnels. I'm buying this opportunity that he's presenting me. He legit is showing me a path to get to my goals. That is what he's been doing with all of his stuff, with all of his books. He's not just selling his software, ClickFunnels. He wants me to be successful on his platform. Right? So he's doing everything. He's created all of these new products and softwares, everything he can think of to make, like he's bashing his head off a wall to try to make all us idiots successful on his software. This is what he's doing different. He's not just trying to push his software. He wants us to be successful on his software because he knows who his target avatar is, and he wants them to get their desired result. Right? So you're selling an opportunity. You're not selling a product or service, right? So this is when, this was my new epiphany, right? It was like, you saw how excited I was when I was reading this stuff.
You were just moping around the house all day.
I had whiteboards out everywhere, right?
I would come home and you'd have both whiteboards would be full of notes. You'd have one right beside you and you'd be like sitting there writing. You couldn't hold it back. You just immediately start, oh man, look at what I found. I already wrote this down. Like it was,
sorry, I probably talked too much during that phase.
It was very exciting. Yeah, it was good. It was good.
But what I was starting to feel was, I felt this type of marketing or what he was doing, this thing he was presenting me, this was aligning with my core, my true values. And back, like even pre-business, to a lot of the stuff I was thinking about, like with mentorship, with personal development, with goal setting, missions, all this stuff, I realized like what he did, he just reignited a fire because I realized this is right in front of my face. I don't have to change the business. I don't have to change from marketing. Actually, I can just do a bit of a pivot, a reposition on my business, but then actually align it with my skill sets. And there's actually a gap that I can see that I can fulfill right now where I can apply actually my expertise in life and my passion in life and mix it with my marketing business. right? So this is the new opportunity I discovered for myself was, there is this gap, and this was a gap I saw anyways. And I tell you about this all the time, right?
We've gone through this.
And in marketing, what I started to realize is the more time I spent up front with someone, the more successful the campaign would be, right? So there's a lot of people that think they have to hop right into marketing, right? And I would, we'd run campaigns, and then you'd have failed campaigns. You'd have some that win, some that lose. The ones you spend the most time on up front, those are the ones that have the best chance of being successful, right? So what I decided to do, though, with that was to double down and go through this exact process that I was going through with myself, not just to make yourself more marketable, right? That's an important element, but to actually give yourself a business that has a deeper motivation that you are excited about, in turn, actually helping
which is
the end user.
And this is connecting where you had lost your passion before and now realize that, like, oh man, this is probably other people are going through this, where they are losing the passion about their business.
Yes.
And I could now, with this new information, build this strategy to help people find what I'd spent the last year looking for and how to find my passion. It's like, okay, now I've got this information. I can put this in a way so that other people can follow along.
What I can do now is package, and you've seen the house the last 3-4 months, right? But I've taken all of the information I've learned the past since running this business, right? I've invested in very heavy marketing courses, very good courses. I took all of the top information from that was aligned with this new thing to fill this gap between an operational business and marketing, because it's a big gap I saw missing, right? But this now gap, there's the opportunity now to almost like inject some passion into it with a bit of a realignment. It's not changing your services. It's not changing what you do. It's not changing your skill set. It's putting a bit of a twist on it, an alignment on it, the exact same thing that I did, right? So I spent months and months and months going through this, setting something up, doing a step-by-step framework that I use for my own business, right? And it's been through so many iterations, and now we're starting to run. I've been running just any one I know with the business through it, right? So the specific results for me right now are this, right? So now I have a business, right? After going through all these iterations and smoothing out this process, and I have a business now. It's not a business. It's a mission that I'm passionate about. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to wake up. It's something I'm proud to talk about. That's why we're here talking, right? Because I have something I'm proud about. I have something I'm actually excited about selling, right? I have something that it's easier to align people to the cause because it's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Right?
I can see it.
Yeah. So I've made this process now that's working for me, right? Now I'm starting to, and I've been running everyone I know through it, right? And the best part is, right, and this is so funny. It's like when you're going through this, you see their light bulbs going off, right? And you see their aha moments coming off, the same exact ones that I had going through this process. And that's my goal with this process is I want to nail all those aha moments I had to reignite the passion in everyone that goes through it, right? So now when I see someone come back to me after that we've talked about this 2 weeks later, a month later, and they're sharing all these new cool ideas, that makes me feel the exact same way as like when working with you with mentorship, right? So I'm seeing this come full circle now. It's one of those things I'm so grateful about with hardship, with hitting rock bottom. Is without that, I wouldn't have been forced to take that whole summer off, those 4 months, forced to find my passion or with fear of going back to a 9-to-5 job. Because now I'm looking at what I'm doing right now, and it's the exact same long-term goal of being a mentor, just kind of applied in a slightly different way. I'm doing it right now, though, right? So it's one of those things that I just feel very happy and grateful to actually have come to this point through much hardship. But now, like, this is essentially the mission of my business, is to help other businesses do the same thing.
So after going through all of that and finding this new motivation, you've obviously had to rebuild your whole website and everything again, which is, I think, probably the third or fourth time I've seen you do that now.
Yeah.
Where are you now? What's the next steps forward for you?
Well, it's content time now, right? So, it's defining that actual program, making an online version of it, right? To actually help people on this process, right? So, yeah, it's going to be content and talking to as many business owners as possible, right? Because what I'm actually trying to do here is, like, I have a plan, but I actually want to go out and now, instead of just being in front of whiteboards, I'm going to be in front of businesses and be talking about all these pain points. And I want this to be my actual mastery, is being able to talk to someone and being able to find and get those sparks, get those aha moments in them, right? Just with small realignments, right? So that's the next step, really. It's sales, but not really sales. It's more so learning what's actually going to be
just
valuable.
Trying to find businesses that you can that will fit and are ready for going through the same process. That need your guidance or your help.
Yeah, so there's really, at this point in time, how I see it, and from what I've seen from businesses, there's two categories. There's the businesses that have put a lot of time in their mission. They've thought about the impact of their service on the end user already. I don't see this a lot, right? I don't have many examples of this. But if you're in that case, and we can get started on actually doing marketing, because I feel better about marketing for someone where we're actually causing an end impact on the users, right? So there's that category of person who's ready. They're ready to just grow and scale, right? Or there's the category of person that, they're typically a passionate entrepreneur like myself. They just need a bit of a handheld, right? They might not need to go through that same process I went through.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially a motivated entrepreneur that's starting a business. They just didn't discover the deep enough meaning, the mission behind it yet, right? And so there's that category, and then that's why we're making that course for that person.
And so how would you wrap this up here today? With obviously we've got a whole bunch of your backstory and sort of what you've been working on this last year, why you left your engineering, all the way to some of the struggles you went through to start Wavefront, and then some of the things that you didn't know that you would run into as external factors, which then triggered internal factors, and how that made you sort of go and do some more, self-development, self-searching. What do you want to leave today with?
Really, it's just if you're an entrepreneur and this has resonated at all, like if you're the type that has heard this and you had a few aha moments, or you realize you're in that same position, we're here to help you. Let's work together. Let's chat. I'm not here. This isn't just a marketing agency anymore. This is, I truly want to help make this change on businesses, because I actually think that every business making this change, you have an impact on all of your customers, right? So if everyone makes that small adjustment, we can all help fix and make the community a better place, one business at a time, right? So
great.
I think I'd end it on that.
Great. Well, thanks for your time today. I appreciate you running me through all of that. And it's nice to hear some of the stuff you've been working on, even though I see you every day just fucking scampering away over there.
Yeah, man. No, it's nice to be back in the studio. It's, it's a hard thing for me to do when I've been staring at a screen for...
Just sitting and talking to another human. All right. Well, thanks a lot. We'll call it there.
Thanks, brother.
Okay.